So this presentation is going to be over the Windscale Fire. So this is just going to be a history of the events. So the Windscale Fire happened on October 10th, 1957 in Great Britain. This was Great Britain's largest nuclear reactor disaster, ranking level 5 classification on the International Nuclear Event Scale. So during World War II, the Manhattan Project ignited UK's involvement with nuclear weaponry. The Manhattan Project was collaborated with the US, UK, and Canada, which was then closed off by the US after the war ended to maintain world power. So the UK started their own project for nuclear weapons, and in 4 years 2 Windscale piles were built in Cumbria, New England, housed in 2 separate concrete buildings a couple of hundred feet apart. They were fueled by 180 tons of uranium metal. The reactors made plutonium for nuclear weapons and polonium and tritium used for fission triggers. So this is the fire events from start to end. So the operators were doing a routine heating of Windscale Pile 1, annealing the reactor core on October 7, 1957. The power was increased to further raise temperatures instead of a gradual release of energy. The high temperatures caused buildup of energy in the core, and the people wanted to accelerate the Wigner process, so they increased power even more, and there was poor placement of thermometers that didn't provide a good reading to the operators, so they were unaware of the dangerous temperatures. The temperatures exceeded the maximum 400 degrees Celsius, and operators noticed the extreme conditions on October 10th. The fire started, and the operators tried to fix the situation by turning the cooling fans to high instead of extinguishing the fire. The fans fanned the flames, which sent the fire roaring, and operators continued to try to diminish the flames with liquid carbon dioxide. Finally, the operators shut the fans off, and water slowly doused the flames. At 3 p.m., the water was turned off after the fire subsided and reactors were cold. Filters on top of the piles prevented only some of the radiation from escaping. So an investigation took place by scientists, and that lasted about 10 days. They came up with 3 possible causes, 1 being the graphite itself, 2 a burnt cartridge, or 3 a tritium cartridge. Further investigation led them to believe it was actually human error. The operators did not properly perform the Wigner energy method. That method is to control heating in a cycle which was deemed safe if done properly. The operators failed to let the temp drop as it should. They increased airflow since they did not allow the cool-down process and continued heating. Instead of the fans cooling for the next stage, it fanned the flames. The operators lacked proper training and knowledge and couldn't follow the complex method without it. They also found out that not only were the thermometers improperly placed, 2 of them were not working correctly. So this was interesting to me because the government actually tried to cover up the situation from the local population. Radioactive particles fell on to the local countryside or were caught in the changing wind, which blew then further inland towards Wales and over the sea to Ireland. A woman named Marjorie Hyam was to monitor data in the scientific laboratory on the site. So she had to sign the Official Secrets Act, which prevented her from talking about her work. So when she arrived one morning at work, she was told she could not leave and could not say anything about the incident. When the fire started, it was rumored that they were going to pump water into the reactor to extinguish it. People would call home to tell their spouses why they'd be late, and they'd get in trouble with the bosses. The authorities wanted it to stay quiet until it was found days later that cows were contaminated by eating radioactive dust on the grass. Milk delivery was stopped for 6 weeks. A delivery from Grasmere in the Lake District got into the supply system, and the government wanted to avoid unnecessarily alarming the local population. Marjorie's godmother saw dead sheep in the field but did not know why. Macmillan ordered an official cover-up, fearing British people would reject the idea of nuclear energy if they found out about the incident or the danger to human health. In 1982, the British National Radiological Protection Board issued a report estimating 32 deaths and at least 260 cases of cancer from that event. People believe that those numbers were too low and that actually the numbers were higher. So, protesters made it known that they found out the incident was actually serious. Family members of them have died to cancer at early ages, even to people who not only were silent victims or employees at the site, but people vacationing at the near beaches at Cumbrian seaside years after the incident. Animals also were dying too, such as birds that were residing at the site after the fire. And scientists did do tests on the birds that had died to see, and they did have radioactive material in them. So, nuclear waste. Today, the entire site no longer produces nuclear power, but remains the world's leading center for reprocessing nuclear waste, taking waste from power stations all over the globe to extract the spent plutonium. They are still sending that out to even Japan. The picture was pretty interesting because it's just a statue there, just in remembrance of the incident, just to show like where it started taking effect, which was the cows nearby eating the grass, and how and where that started to become known to the local population. And this one also I wanted to put up there because it's crazy to me that so many people over there are still affected by this, and they want to make it known to always remember that incident so that they can prevent it from happening again, and that there are people even in their families that are still dealing with what they believe to be issues from that event, such as cancer or dying at a young age due to cancer or having stillbirths and that sort of thing. So that was pretty interesting to me.